So hi everyone, and welcome to Kingsley Gate in the Spotlight series on her corner office. We bring to you inspiring journeys of leading women executives that take us through their journeys and stories of opportunities, challenges, achievements that ultimately brought them to their success today. I'm Muna Awwadová, partner with Kingsley Gate, and I'm honored today to be joined by our special guest, Mrs. Elissar Farah Antonios. Elissar is a seasoned international banker with extensive experience in the financial industry, ranked by Forbes Middle East among the most powerful and influential Arab businesswomen, named by Financial News the top 50 most influential women in finance in the Middle East. With over decades of corporate experience and her last role as Citigroup CEO of Middle East and Africa, Elissar today is an independent strategic advisor and serves on the board. She is a chair of Injaz UAE, an NGO that focuses on youth empowerment and preparedness for the workforce. She also serves on the board of Dubai International Chamber of Commerce. Elissar is passionate supporting Arab youth and the region's next generation leaders, as well as driving the agenda of diversity in the workplace and on boards. Welcome, Elissar, and thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us your story.
Thank you, Mona. I'm really honored to be with you, and I feel privileged that I'm being invited for the In the Spotlight series.
Excellent, great, thank you. And so, as we start every episode with kind of key important decisions that we ask our guests about, two key important decisions they have taken throughout their career to date that have ultimately brought them where they are today. If you look back, Elissar, what would those two most important decisions be for you?
Yeah, I mean, reflecting on a 32-year corporate career journey, I think about how I've spent the past 32 years, and I know that there's been lots of challenges, and at times difficult decisions to be made. But if I would say the two most important decisions that I had to make that helped me to progress with my career, I'd say the first one would be getting out of my comfort zone. And it's something that I actually did a few times throughout my career. And I believe that this is something that we all fall into. We get so used to the environment we're in, the mandate that we have. We feel that we're acing what we're doing, so why take more challenges? But in fact, what tends to happen if you don't get out of your comfort zone is you miss on opportunities and you miss on new learnings as well. So in a dynamic and evolving environment that we operate in, you could find yourself, if you don't jump on opportunities and you don't get out of your comfort zone, you could find yourself at some stage of making yourself obsolete. So I'd say getting out of my comfort zone throughout my career has helped me. And if I reflect 32 years of the corporate career, I actually did not stick to the same organization. I'm not trying to say that it means that people need to move from organizations to progress, but at times, actually, they do have to move around a little. And if I reflect on the past 18 years where I spent most of my banking career with Citi, the getting out of my comfort zone really gave me a leap jump in my career. And that was taking the decision to change disciplines, into new business, new learnings, etc. So I would say that's I would rank that as a very important decision that I have to make, and definitely would recommend others, if they've not tried to get out of their comfort zone, to do so. Now, that's not enough to progress in one's career, especially, I would say, when you're into an executive corporate career. So the second thing that I would say helped me tremendously was finding a sponsor. Finding a sponsor throughout my journey. And I'd say a sponsor, not a mentor. Though I would say both mentors and sponsors play crucial roles in professional development, but there is a difference. While mentorship is at large kind of advisory, where you seek a mentor to take an opinion about a certain circumstance or a certain situation that you're in, a sponsor is an advocate while you're not in that room, advocates your career trajectory. So finding a sponsor is crucial, I would say, especially within a corporate structure. So these are really two things that I would say really contributed a lot to my progress in my corporate career.
I think we talked about this, Elissar, regarding, the sponsorship and the importance of the sponsorship, and even more so looking at organizations today where they're really driving the diversity and trying to ensure there's clear balance in the concept that it actually brings from a cultural fit, from bringing the right people on board. I mean, can you give us a little bit more your thoughts and opinion on, particularly if we look at the Middle East lens? What are the key elements in regards to creating that diversity and having that sponsorship, particularly in women in the Middle East?
I would say, I don't want to phrase it within the Middle East, because honestly, as I've worked in different jurisdictions and I've worked for multinational institutions, the question of diversity is not necessarily unique to the Middle East per se. And diversity in all its kind of shapes and forms, and maybe not only on the gender diversity bit. But if we can maybe spend some time and maybe talk a little bit about balancing the concept of diversity and the cultural fit within that perspective. So while diversity brings a variety of perspectives and ideas, having a strong cultural fit ensures cohesion, shared values within an organization. And so while we want to definitely be driving diversity agenda, I think as we push for that agenda, institutions really need to reflect and assess whether a diverse candidate fits within the culture of the organization, and whether there's work that needs to be done on the culture of the organization to be more inclusive and open in terms of accepting diverse views and diverse perspectives.
And let's stay a little bit more on the cultural fit. I think that is quite important. And if we look at organizations, and that's maybe a little bit more, looking at what is successful for organizations that actually succeed in creating a much more diverse employees and a mix of employees. What do you think is the right culture of a company that actually creates a stronger, diverse, or attracts even diverse employees into their organization?
Things don't happen on their own. So companies cannot just talk about wanting to have a diverse workforce. They really need to work from within on defining the culture. So clearly define your organizational culture, emphasize values that promote not only diversity, but inclusivity as such, prioritizing inclusive cultural fit. So shifting the focus from traditional notions of a cultural fit to more of an inclusive cultural fit, to an extent of promoting diversity in core values. So kind of actively promote diversity as a core value within the organization. And I would say from experience also, Muna, what we realized as we, embarked on implementing a diverse and inclusive cultural strategy there needed to be a lot of education and training, even to senior managers. So educating hiring managers, educating employees, providing tools, especially I would say as you interview. What were there diverse interview panels as an example? Were there behavioral interview strategy? Have organizations looked at implementing a blind recruitment practices? And there are many studies out there. When you implement a blind recruitment practice, the outcome on the hiring process is different. This is mind-boggling, but it's actually true. So, in addition to, I would say, is the leadership of the organization receiving training? Are we fostering inclusive leadership? Are we putting in the right, I would say, practices or opportunities, options for employees to have certain flexibility to be able to balance that work-life balance to be able to attract the right talent as well. So some of the ideas that are coming to my mind from the experience of focusing also on ensuring a diverse workplace.
And that is, that's so important, particularly as you mentioned, the awareness, the training, putting it into the strategy. Those are very key elements that we look at from an organization perspective. But I'm keen, as an empowerer of women in leadership, Elissar, I'd be keen to know if you can share with us a little bit of your thoughts on some of the key barriers that women who are striving for leadership roles, what are some of the barriers that they face? And maybe if we can look from your international experience and zoom then on more onto the Middle East angle as well.
And I must say there's so much commonality, Muna, in terms of what women in general encounter in terms of barriers. And I would say many of which are really rooted in systematic and cultural factors. I'll try to kind of divide it into sections. And maybe first, if you can speak about the gender bias and the stereotype. So, many stereotypes around women's leadership styles and perception, whether they are assertive enough to take up challenging leadership role. There's always that stereotype exists because in general, I would say, and I'm generalizing styles here. In general, maybe women don't come across as opinionated, if we want to say that, or vocal in terms of sharing their views. And they could be a bit more soft-spoken. So this could be taken in a way against them. They could be seen as assertive, but that is stylistic, I would say. That is not necessarily their inability. And so that, for example, that's a gender bias or a stereotype that is out there. And so women may face skepticism, resistance, a bit of microaggression based on these stereotypes, which makes it harder for them to be seen as effective leaders. So that's one aspect, I would say. The second aspect, which I've observed, is that men in general are much better in seeking a mentor and a sponsor, and women tend to shy away. I would say with respect to how men would seek mentorship and sponsorship. In general, men are much more vocal. They don't hesitate asking for help, and women are a little bit shy. And this is something that we've worked a lot on in terms of putting actually mentorship and sponsorship programs. So I would highly recommend that this is something embedded in organizations. And in general, women may have fewer mentors or sponsors who can provide guidance than men. But if you put a program and you monitor a program in place in organizations, then that's one way of encouraging them. And the impact of having a strong mentorship or sponsorship is that more opportunities can be presented, as well as potential developmental areas that women may need to work on, and to advocate, so that they can advocate for specific promotion. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the work-life balance challenge. And I know it's something maybe we all experienced during COVID, because suddenly everybody also was working from home. And yet the chores were the same chores. Societal expectations, I would say, be it for caregiving or be it if you are responsible for a family. These can create challenges in balancing work and personal life. And, for example, I always go by introducing myself, I'm a mother. And some people perceive that I'm prioritizing I used to prioritize, or I'm seen as prioritizing my personal life. And the answer is yes, I am prioritizing my personal life, but it doesn't mean that you cannot find the right balance if you have the right support. So work-life balance challenges at large impact women more than they do on men.
And that's no, thank you. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
Just wanted to add one thing also in terms of what barriers or what are the key barriers for women, and I would say maybe more than for men. At large, Muna, it's lack of representation at the top. And what I mean by that, I mean, you look at the hierarchy of most of the organization. Yes, we are starting to see more women in, C-suite or CXO, but at large, if we analyze what are these positions, are these positions P&L positions? Are these function positions? What is the influence of these positions? As well as how many of these positions are really, how many of diverse candidates are represented at the top? So limited representation of women in top leadership positions can create a lack of role models. And the more we focus on having senior women at senior level, you create those role models. Hopefully, these women would advocate for other women, and then the younger women in the workforce have something to have someone to look up to, and more of a I can do that too attitude.
And so, Elissar, can you give us a little bit? This is a very important topic for young women leaders. If we look at, them looking internally within their organizations for sponsors and advocates. Where do they go to? Are these conversations with HR? They're hiring managers. What's the kind of structure that you believe they should go after and try to ask for being able to have mentors and advocates?
My advice, Muna, would be most organizations have implemented this program. But what is also key to understand is that HR is there, your manager is there, but there's a lot of work that you also need to do yourself. No one's going to come and spoon feed you. And this, I would say, is advice not only for, women in the workforce, it's for any talent that is aspiring to grow in their career. No one's going to come and spoon feed you. You have the menu out there. Make sure you use it properly and wisely. And at times, some of the seniors may be busy. Be persistent, persevere, ask for help, use the tools that are available. And without sounding, I would say negative, but if for whatever reason you're not finding that support or opportunity within your organization, believe in your worth and look around. It's okay. I mean, sometimes opportunities may be not easy to attain in a specific maybe department or organization. For whatever reason, that organization can can be going through restructuring, as an example. Whatever the reason may be, keep the focus on where you want to take your career, and just stay at it. And sometimes mentors and sponsors don't only have to be within your own organization.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's good to have also mentors and sponsors from outside the organization. I've benefited from such relationships, Muna. Important to have them in the organization, but also important to have them outside the organization.
Mm-hmm. And if we look now on the flip side, and we look at, where do you personally believe some companies, have got this correct and have got it right, and where could be some shortcomings to watch out for from an employer's perspective?
At large, Mona, companies they're putting the processes in place. So most of the companies, if you talk to any of the companies, multinational companies, even regional companies, they have policies in place for diversity and inclusion initiatives. They are committed to leadership, and they have various leadership training. Most of the organizations today are offering flexible work arrangements. I think within our Middle East and MENA region, most of the organizations offer flexibility of working from home 1 or 2 days, and then maybe 3 days from the office. Very few organizations are not offering that flexibility. Most organizations have a mentorship and sponsorship programs. So a lot of the organizations have put these policies in place. So I think they're getting it right. But as we say, it's the secret is in the outcome, in the pudding and in the out, right? So it's not enough to have a policy in place. I think it needs to be measured whether progress is being made, and it needs to be reviewed because circumstances also change. In terms of the shortcomings, Muna, I think the lack of representation at the top is very, very obvious. Even if we look at Fortune 500 companies, how many of them have, for example, female CEOs? So, etc., etc. So that lack of representation is still very, very present in that perspective. And I'd say that's maybe the number one shortcoming out there. I think the unconscious bias still exists, and I think continuous trainings on that. Companies may have a diversity agenda in terms of hiring, but maybe they're not addressing the unconscious bias in hiring, in promotion, in day-to-day interaction. So, how comfortable are people around the table speaking out? Is this something that companies are watching for? Because diversity of views drives business, and outcomes are by far better. But are we creating the environment whereby people are comfortable sharing their views, even if they may be controversial or opposing one or two seniors around the table? As an example, so unconscious bias, can easily impact one's career. What else can we cover?
If we can cover the youth, because honestly, I think even there's a generational element to it, correct? Where, even we've seen with the younger generation voicing their opinion is more vocal than potentially we have the millennials or even others that potentially, find it more challenging to do so. So any input on that would be great.
Absolutely, Muna. And what we don't understand is we need talent, right? And and the talent that today we have is anywhere from people who have been in the workforce for 40 plus years to, the younger generation that is much more liberal in their thinking, maybe less structured, but much more creative, which is really needed in the day and age that we are doing business in today, in terms of the creativity that is needed, the innovation that is needed. And today, the biggest risk we have in recruiting for longevity in corporate roles is our ability to keep the younger generation interested in what they're doing. So the question is, there's a myth out there that, they're impatient. It's not about the younger generation being impatient. The younger generation wants to be challenged as well. So kind of in the old days, we used to say, land a job, they should stay there forever, show loyalty. These are measured differently today. Today, even when we interview, we're super excited to see people who have done a few different roles with a few different organizations. It's no longer like a negative selling point if you have a variety of experience. On the contrary, it actually demonstrates your ability to be much more flexible, ability to learn new skill sets. The whole spectrum of attracting talent and retaining talent has moved tremendously. Today you have some dinosaurs sitting in their roles, and it's very difficult for them to maybe shift with the fast-moving pace. There was actually a very interesting research done whereby CEOs were interviewed and being asked, do you see yourself in a job in the coming 2 years? And about 65% of them said no. They feel that it's time for them to kind of move on, which is quite interesting. But I wanted, maybe we can spend, because this is something very close to my heart. I wanted to spend some time. During COVID, there was a lot of talk around the Great Resignation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And today we post COVID, right? We're back into the workplace, maybe a different operating model in terms of a hybrid model. So we continue to see, especially because on the topic of women specifically, we continue to see a lot of resignations of senior women. And one of the things that I would strongly recommend organizations to look at is to really stop and ask and have exit interviews and ask women, why are they leaving? Because often there's that perception that women are leaving because they have too much on their plate. Women are leaving because, they want to take care of family, etc. And what research has shown is women are leaving for a couple of reasons, not to sit at home. They're leaving before they feel underappreciated where they are. They are leaving because they're not getting the right opportunity and they're not being recognized. So when they leave, they don't leave to stay at home. They leave to do something totally different, or another organization has actually poached them. So I think this is honestly extremely important to stop and look at. And there was an article a couple of weeks ago I wrote about it on the great breakup. So no longer the Great Resignation, but the Great Breakup, where senior level women are increasingly looking elsewhere for better opportunities. So this is a great detriment for employers that are trying to implement a diversity strategy, but also for these employees that, if these senior women leave, you stop having that role model for others. It does have a ripple effect, and it warrants attention.
And I would just go even further to that, where you have even senior leaders, women. What we have seen from conversations is that they also are looking for different environments. So it's literally the different culture that we just talked about earlier on, because as you mentioned, it's always easier to say or to kind of push the excuse for women leaving because they have different priorities from a social perspective, and that's something we continuously battle with. We have conversations about, and I think what's important is what we're trying to say from an employer perspective is the dialogue that is happening internally, and how much is really the leadership receptive of that, and how much are they really investing in investigating, in addressing those issues. And so we have seen a number of leaders that are looking at more environments that are giving that opportunity, that space for women to be themselves and be able to be authentic of being a woman in the leadership. So not necessarily taking on a role because she is a woman, but actually the capabilities, the expertise, and the diversity is an extra element. And we also mentioned that in a couple of the conversations earlier. It is extremely important, particularly at the more senior they get in their roles. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's people who think this is a tick the box exercise really need to reflect. I mean, that thinking is actually out there, but I think as more and more women take these leadership roles and demonstrate their ability in terms of leading businesses, that myth, I would say, would eventually go away. But my biggest concern is whether we're really moving the needle quick enough. And I think you look at the statistics out there. You and I are talking about the topic that's been spoken about for how many years now? And I'm very focused now in terms of women representation on boards as well today. And if we look globally or even within our region, I think maybe only 1 or 2 countries are at double digit below 20%, that is, in terms of women representation on board. I've had many discussions across the region, and sometimes I get but we don't find them. This is not true. They are out there, but again, it's around having maybe the right regulations, legislations to impose a certain percentage to start off with, and then to ensure that we're advocating enough for all of these senior C-suite women ability to be serving on board. Because there are 2 ways you can influence the workforce. You can definitely influence the workforce, within being part of the senior management, but also influence the workforce by being vocal on boards, ensuring diversity is there, and ensuring that the organization is focused on diversity of all its shapes and forms, not only gender diversity.
Yeah, and correct. And I think sometimes we also need to be quite aware of the values of the organization, because it may be embedded, but then and diversity may be embedded within the values, but then are those values live? So I think that's also very much a question for women in organizations to really be able to recognize this. But we talked as well about women empowering women, Elissar, and I'm keen if you can also give us your thought on it, because that's a powerful and important element as well.
Yeah, I mean, in my corporate career, I've often had men leaders that would say, "Oh, women need to support women more," and I mean, because in their mind, women don't know how to support women, and I disagree with that. The power of a woman supporting another woman is exponential, because not only from a career trajectory perspective, it's just that we understand each other more. We can relate to certain circumstances, issues, challenges in the workforce that may be difficult to relate with a man. No, I mean, I must say, I've had maybe the biggest jumps in my career had been when I've had allies, men allies, and I would say my sponsor was a senior man in the organization. And I can say, well, maybe he was a senior man because there are lack of that many senior women that can be sponsors. That's also, that's also a possibility, right? But the power of women supporting women is exponential. I'm a strong advocate for that. And I'm super passionate about, as senior women get to certain positions, is for them to actually drop the ladder, to become a role model, but pull someone with you along the way as well. And this is certainly something that I would, to leave a message with our viewers to know. I mean, as we progress in our careers, let's make sure we're pulling somebody else with us. And if we get there, drop the ladder. So, yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I'm very keen on moving on your personal side, Elissar, and it's more really talking about you. Keen to know, how do you manage? How do you balance life, work life, and personal life? And what do you do to unwind? What does Elissar do to unwind?
The balancing thing is not an easy task. Honestly, I mean, it's one practice may not work for somebody else depending on your personal circumstances. Do you have family? Are you a caretaker? Do you have elderly parents you're taking care of? Do you have kids still at school? And I mean, as I mentioned, I am a mother, so I grew up in my career by trying to manage being a mother, lovely 2 kids who are grown-ups now and in the workforce and adults and don't need me anymore. But there were times where I definitely needed the support, and I'd say, having a partner that was there also to support me and to play the role of a parent, because I mean, parenthood is not only about the mothers doing everything, but in certain maybe cultures or relationships, or I mean, the mothers end up by doing a little bit more, but having the conversation with your partner to make sure that they are also accepted is very important and help, as well as, I mean, seeking professional help. If there are things you can outsource, whatever those chores may be, that outsource them. I mean, we cannot do, there's no way that we can be there and do everything. For me, it was very important that I was there for my kids, to take care of them, especially before they slept. That was a time where it was super important for me that I'm at home. But I did rely on a lot of support. So balancing is not easy. I've had to give up certain relationships in terms of certain friendships that I couldn't keep up with. And there are a number of friendships that carried on with me because they understood, or they were going through the same journey. So we didn't necessarily have to be there together all the time, but whenever we met, we were there to support each other. So there isn't a perfect formula, Muna, and people have gone through this, in different ways. But all I can say, it's not easy, but it can be done. But there are compromises that will need to be made, and you definitely need to have the right support. In terms of unwinding, to me, exercise is very important. So if I don't exercise properly during a given week, then I become cranky. and I'm not in a good mood. So this is very important. So I would say exercising is a bit of unwinding, but overall self-care. So unwinding is not you taking care of somebody else. Unwinding is you stopping and taking care of yourself. And
That's
often say, oh, I don't know, I went to visit my parents or I took care of this. And that is not unwinding. That is additional chores.
Yes, that's the additional responsibilities that you take automatically as part of your life. No, that is great. That is great. Thank you.
For the family, right?
Yeah.
Not the family, they cook, but oh yes, I did this. Okay, maybe you unwind while cooking, but you're actually doing something. And I think a focus on self-care is very important.
Yeah, no, that is excellent. Great, Elissar. So I understand after leaving Citigroup, you are today a strategic advisor and a board member. I would be keen to hear more about your activities and your mission.
Thank you, Muna. Yeah, I mean, a big decision. You do 32 years of a corporate career. You very kindly made a great introduction in terms of my career achievements, which I'm super proud of. But I think it comes a time where you say, where else can I be impactful? And how do I want to spend, the coming, 10 years of, activity? And I strongly believe the experience that you gain, 30 plus years of that, you can put it to work in many different angles. And if you want to do so, it's very difficult to be aligned to just one organization. And that's why I took that decision to step away from corporate executive career, to build a portfolio of engagement where I am a little bit more in control in terms of the impact and the purpose. And so there are a couple of things that I'm super passionate about. One of them we spoke about maybe briefly as you introduced me is around youth empowerment. So I'm going to be focusing on not-for-profit work or philanthropic work, if that's the way we want to categorize it. And currently I chair INJAZ, which is Junior Achievement, focusing on youth empowerment in the UAE, preparedness for the workplace, as well as entrepreneurship skill set. So I want to spend much more time working with youth, helping them navigate the challenges, preparing them for the workforce, giving them the right skill set. The second thing that I'm super passionate about, and you and I are passionate about, is around women empowerment. And so today I am part of a group of 300 international women that I've done a specific program in a renowned university. And the group is called Women Executive on Board. I truly believe that women can drive businesses from the workplace as they can do in senior executive roles. But there needs to be an effort from both levels, from a senior executive level, from the corporate level, as well as on the board level. And I feel I've reached that maturity and experience where I can be placed on boards and try to influence certain strategies that I'm passionate about, but also business results and outcomes. So this is a work stream that I'm extremely focused on and passionate about. And thirdly is, how do I bring my experience as a strategic advisor to many of the clients that I've worked with throughout the years that have asked me to be involved on specific mandates. When you're in the corporate world, it's difficult to say yes to. So a bit of more flexibility across the career spectrum, and also to lead and say, yes, after a corporate executive career, you can actually have a continuation of your career as well. So this is something, as I've always aspired to be a role model, post-executive lifestyle as well.
And that's magnificent. I mean, you see, once you put your mind to it, it's there, and that determination is very inspirational, Elissar. So thank you for that. Any final advice would you have for the next generation moving up the ladder and their careers?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say that everyone's career path is unique, and success is a personal journey. So I'd say stay true to your values, stay resilient in the face of challenges, continue to evolve both personally and professionally. Your story is one of growth. Each step contributes to your overall success and fulfillment. And I'm a true believer. If you focus on your happiness, success will follow, and vice versa. So I think focusing on a bit of self-care to make sure we are in the right place, happy doing what we're doing, and success will automatically come along. So irrespective of what the secret sauce of your success may be, I want to say it again, Muna, pull someone along the way and drop the ladder for others to follow. And maybe my final point would be balance your ambition with patience. Sometimes we just need to be patient and enjoy the journey.
Excellent. Thank you, Elissar. As we're coming to the end of our today's episode, I would like to thank you, Elissar, for your time sharing with us your story and your valuable advice. We wish you continuous success in your journey ahead and in your mission. And thank you for the viewers for tuning in and again, yet listening to an inspirational story of leading women executives in the Middle East. And for more stories, you can visit our website, www.kingsley.gate.com. And we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.